Recording. I gotta double check. I'm recording. All right, there's a robot in the middle of the room. It's recording me. It's not recording you. It's following this device, which is a microphone. And if you'll notice, I walk around. It should follow me. The goal, of course, is always to replace teachers with robots. Therefore, you can get rid of those pesky teachers and save a lot of taxpayer money. And so if they record a college professor once, they should be able to play it over and over again and never have to employ any more college professors. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Is that a goal? Eventually, humans won't work at all. We'll just have robots doing everything. But if you want to talk about the robot, you can ask me questions as the day goes on. Right now, I got something more important. We have a test on Wednesday. I want two people to go to the board. I want one person to write out the levels of organization and another person to write out the major biochemicals, and I want an example of each of the levels of organization, and I want an example of each major biochemical. Someone go to the board. This is just warm-up. This is not tough. This is an easy question. And I think Matt's going to go around and pass out the quizzes from last week. Is that right? All right. Go to work.
This second one, sure.
Oh, okay.
I can't.
You can't go there. Yeah. I can do that.
You want the keys too?
I want to post those in lab.
Okay.
Let's post them in lab. So I think we're going to do that for the test.
Right, from smallest to largest?
Smallest to largest. Anything smaller than a cell? It's a good place to start.
Triglycerides?
Yeah. I think like aren't.
You're making a list that's kind of generic, things like atoms, molecules, and cells, and then next to it, give me a specific example. Give me a specific example. And bonus time is list every organ system found in the body. List them all. And you could even give an example organ from each one. And this is just review, thinking ahead of the test.
Example for each level? Or
Yep. Give me an example. Like, what? Give me a type of tissue. Give me a type of cell. Give me a name of an organ.
molecules as well,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Like molecule? Oh, I'll get you another one. Give you about another 2 minutes. This is just a review activity to get your brains going.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What's wrong with the pancreas here?
Oh, it's in. Oh, yeah. It's got to feed in right here. Get a pen. I only got this marker. Yeah. It's got to go. I'll give you a hint. You want to know this for the test. It's right there. Not there. It's there.
Okay.
Give you about another minute. Then we're going to get going for the lab of the day.
I tried reading the textbook. That's so crazy. Like,
It's crazy boring.
no, it's just like each thing has like another subdivision.
Which
like,
chapter?
4 or 5 times. I read out the ones on tissues, the ones on like histology. The histology stuff.
Yep.
Oh, how much stuff from labs do we need to know?
some. So it's just like, I'm going to tell everybody this. Hey, look at me. Look at me, because I'll give you a clue on what's on the test. Leave this up on the board. People can look at it. A good question is how much from labs. So if I have a picture of a body mass indicator device, I might say, what does this medical instrument measure? Body mass index. Okay? So I might ask, the anatomy of a chicken wing. Or I might ask, something with knee tendons, or, anatomy of the knee. Yes?
In our lab, we didn't use like a BMI indicator device. We just weighed ourselves and then took our height.
Oh, then I won't show you the BMI. Thank you. I won't show the BMI indicator. Let's see, what's the third lab? Did we do blood pressure? Yeah, we did. Blood typing. Oh, yeah, because then I can ask something like, how many different blood types are there? How many proteins are there that form these blood types? Okay? But I'm not going to hit really difficult questions on the lab. I will ask difficult questions on type 1 and type 2 diabetes, biochemical pathways, and the action of insulin. Okay? That's stuff that we hit pretty hard in lecture. Lab stuff I don't hit that hard. Looking around, does anybody have a question about what's on the board? I think I'm okay. Looking at stuff, I think you've got it. No, that should be just stuff from the first couple weeks of class. I'm going to shut down my Bach. And here's what's in lab this week. What? Let's cut your volume down here. All right. Some of you are waking up. We have an electronics lab this week. And actually what I want one person to do is to go up to the board and point out things and name the stuff they see up there. What's the anatomy of the things you see up there? I'm going to give you 1 minute that somebody at your table who knows this stuff, go tell the rest of the table what it is. All right, go. Stand up. Somebody go up there.
In a car? In a car, you said, or in what?
About another 30 seconds.
The LED a diode kind of has
Biochemical pathways, do you think that we should memorize the models or just understand how they work?
There's a picture of a cell that shows like glucose going in and then going up to glycogen and then down to pyruvate and then over. That's I should tell that to everybody because that's something that everybody should know. It's on there. I'll tell them. Well, we have two equations.
So we should memorize
2 equations. All right, have a seat. So, you might want a piece of paper out somewhere to say, test 1 stuff because questions just came up. I'm going to hit what's on the screen here in a second, too. And this is just fine. You can ask me questions about test 1. I understand, it's kind of on your mind right now. So here's a question. Do we have to memorize all the biochemical pathways? There is one image that's very important, and it's in the one with the subway system, and it showed a picture of a hepatocyte, and then glucose going in, and then glucose going up to what is it? What's the storage form of glucose? Glycogen, and then it goes down to pyruvate, and then over to fatty acids and triglycerides. That's an important one. You want to put a star next to that one. Then you asked the second question. I forget what it was. Oh, do we have to memorize all the equations? You have 2 stinking equations. You have glucose being oxidized into carbon dioxide and water and energy. And then you also have carbon dioxide combining with water to form hydrogen ions and bicarbonate. Remember that? But, 2 stinking equations. You should know those 2. That's not too tough. But during class today, it's just fine as we're doing an activity, and we've got one fairly long activity. You can ask me, and that's fine. I'll let you know. But if there's something big like this, I'll let everybody know. But that's a big one. I wrote the test yesterday. I have some clues up on the Canvas. I always want to say Moodle, but we switched to Canvas. All right, lab. Let's look at this stuff. So for many years, my enemy in electricity is what's the difference between a volt and an amp and an ohm. And it wasn't until I went through welding classes that I figured it out. But I have relatives that were always using these words. They're electricians and electrical engineers and just mechanics. And they would always say the word volt and amp, and what's the difference? But this week in lab, you're going to learn about volts and amps because it's really important in physiology as well. Because electricity flows, blood flows. And we are going to start moving into cardiovascular system and resistance. Say ohm. Ohm. Say it like you're a monk. Ohm. But you're going to learn about ohms and resistors and microcontrollers. And there's oven mitts involved. What? There's oven mitts in lab this week. And the deal is, some people do this really well. Have to learn to talk about it. Using your words is a big part of learning about life. Can you explain your ideas? We have oven mitts for people who know a little too much, but I'll let you find out in lab.
It's for everybody else. Protection.
Oh, yeah, it's for your protection. All right, look at the screen. I want one person to go up to the screen. Somebody who hasn't stood up there. And on the left side, I want you to name all the organs and then try to figure out what those arrows are. It's not that tough, but this is going to take like 30 seconds. Just somebody go up there and, what does it say? It says on there, kidneys. Jeez. Okay, these are the kidneys. Good. I'm not going to have you do that now. But here, just some things to notice on the screen. I'm going to see if I get a pointer up here. We have 2 circuits. We have what's called a systemic circuit. And we have a pulmonary circuit, and this is where our electrical circuits come in. We get a pulmonary circuit that involves the lungs, and we got a systemic circuit that involves a lot of different organs. And we got just muscles as an example, liver, intestines, kidneys. And then, the key here is that at some point you're going to get exchange with the interstitial fluids. You're going to get stuff coming out and stuff going back in. And blood is a transportation mechanism. That's the big thing about blood in the cardiovascular system. It transports. And right in the middle of it is a pump. And this pump creates a pressure. That's where we get kind of the voltage. That's the push. And you get a pressure here and a pressure there. And the farther away you go from the pump, the lower the pressure. That's just logical. But we're going to learn a lot about diseases and resistance and some things to come about this thing. But I got a question here. Got a question. This one's not tough. In one circuit, can you go through both the kidneys and the liver? Look at that diagram. In one cycle, can you go through the kidneys and the liver in one cycle? No. It always goes back to the heart. How about the intestines and the liver? That's a little different. That's what's called the portal system, and we don't really talk about those too much. But the kidneys, it's like every 4th cycle, our blood cell goes through the kidneys. And we don't have the brain up there. We got a lot of missing organs, but this is good enough. That's good enough. Any questions?
So you can't go from the kidneys to the liver.
That is correct. In one cycle, you can only go through the kidneys, or you can go through the liver, but you can't go backwards. See those arrows? Arrows are directional. The arrows are directional. You can't go backwards.
It has to go through blood flow, so the intestines can go directly to the liver.
Correct. And actually, every other, it goes back to the heart, and then it goes to the lungs, then it goes back, and then it goes to the lungs. And, it's just a figure 8 pattern there, kind of. You're going to learn a lot about this in the next, 3 weeks? 3-4 weeks we can spend on the cardiovascular system. All right, right now we're going to transition to what we're doing in lecture here today. We have something that's so important that it's on test 1 and test 2. Test 1, today's material, easy. Today, stuff, I'm not going to be really in-depth on the test. But it's so important. We're going to learn some generic outlines of homeostatic negative feedback mechanisms. But then we are going to kind of hit it harder as the semester continues. But today is easy. And who knows a lot about cars? 1, 2. Come on, there's more than 3 of us in here. 3. All right. So here's the deal. I don't want you to think too hard, okay? If you know a lot about cars, today's activity, especially the beginning of it, is confusing. It helps if you just kind of go, okay, we won't think about that. Because, here's the deal. Part of today, we had, measuring RPMs, revolutions per minute of a car engine. And I asked my relatives, how many different ways are there to measure RPM or engine speed? And it was just like this big long list. And it's just like, oh, this could get complicated quickly. So today's activity, don't think too hard, okay, if you know a lot about cars. But page 313. Page 313 is the activity. You need a reader, you need a recorder, someone to write, someone to ask questions. And I'm going to be walking around. And we're going to be using the majority of the class time today for this activity. And let me know if you find any spelling mistakes and stuff like that, because this is the first time we've ever tried it. So we're going to see how it goes. But it tests pretty well. All right, get going. Page 313. Yeah, rounding error. I remember that. Found a rounding error. That was good, though. What do you have?
It's a combination of 4 different Kia Sportages and a burned out water hose.
You got a Chimera. That's a fun one. There's a great Johnny Cash song about a car, about a guy working at a car plant, and he steals a part like every 2 weeks. 1 piece at a time. You got it. Good for you.
What kind of car is it?
I was literally driving back from a wedding in Wisconsin yesterday on cruise control, and I was noticing when you go up the hill, the engine.
Hey.
This is weird.
It's deja vu.
Yeah.
It's when it kicks it in 2 gears. If it kicks it up 1, it's fine. I know what's going on. But when it revs, it goes up to like 4,500. Freaks me out.
It's cool how that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if the analogy to human physiology works today.
Get the current speed as well.
What'd you say?
I was thinking like brakes, but then engines probably like more.
When I wrote this or putting this together, the question is, does the cruise control ever engage a brake?
No, it doesn't.
It switches.
It sure could.
It switches like transmission or like
Gears.
going downhill to slow the car down.
So kind of like a Jake brake on a truck.
Yeah.
But it'll actually go to a lower gear, and then you get the...
Yeah. Engine braking.
Yeah, the engine brakes.
I was like.
But this is where we don't want you to think too
I
hard.
was very close to like stalling at one point because I was on cruise control and
This table is more quiet than even normal. Y'all good? Going okay? Is it okay? All right, you're moving forward. All right, I won't bug you then. Speak up if you got a question. Yeah, the chemical engineer in the group might not be able to help this time.
unfortunately. We'll figure it out.
Is the chemical engineers interested in cars at all?
I'm sure some.
Somewhere in there.
Not like stereo.
Oh, is there petroleum engineering, chemical engineering? I suppose that's big.
A big one.
That's a big one. Yeah.
Oh, I think we just have to look at the time point if it's flat. Because then like it goes like increase with
Got a question, 1.6. Question 1.6, right before Model 2. Cruise control device. It's a computer that changes engine activity without input from the driver. What's the two main types of information? Current speed.
Set point.
Set point.
Yeah.
Now, does it RPM matter? See, RPM's written a lot of places. It's current speed set point. Okay?
What is the set point?
What's the set point? Someone over here said it. You're right. Say it. 65. 65 miles an hour is a set point, and actual speed or current speed might vary. Probably does vary.
Isn't it the same though, the current speed and the set point to starting off?
Well, then you're in good shape, and you don't need to change the RPMs. You don't need to change the effector. All right, get back to work. It's not RPM though.
It's not RPM.
No, the RPM engine activity is the that's the effector.
Yeah. Yeah, increase, decrease.
So skip to 2.6.
Matt disappeared.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Good.
All right. What?
Stuff.
Oh, you've been doing the LED strips?
That's labs this week, isn't it?
I think I can't remember if we do LED strips. I think we just do LED lights. But I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Like, yeah, so I guess the answer is to be the effector in that relationship. Yeah. Just like in this model,
Which dependency resulted in so
Most of you are not there yet, but I am very interested in 2.9. So when you get to 2.9, let me know, and I might look over your shoulder and see what you get.
I did 2.9.
What'd you get?
I said the farther away the current speed is from the set point, the more the engine has to change activity, like RPM.
What does it say?
What does your previous answer tell you about the nature of set points?
Does the rest of the table agree with that?
Like when it's
I'm trying to think about it because it looks like the only time it's changing in terms of engine activity is when they're changing from going uphill to downhill or flat to uphill.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes the speed will deviate a good bit and the RPM won't change. So
That's important.
yeah.
What did he say? What did he say?
It's like a trend thing probably.
Trend?
I don't know. It's either
I'm looking for a word that you'll know. And a bad word is point. My brain hurts. Keep working. I'll give it to you in a minute if you don't have it. I don't want to think. Anybody get 2.9? Oh, you're right there. Did you get 2.9? What'd you say?
I said not all disparities in the set points and detected speeds results in a change in engine activity.
Sounds like a CLA answer. Are you a liberal arts student?
Carlson.
That's a pretty good answer. Read that again. That was really well put together.
Not all disparities in the set points and detected speeds results in a change in engine activity.
That's spot on. Doesn't really answer the question,
Yeah, it
but
doesn't. Exactly.
you wrote all the way around. But you made a good observation there. Not all disparities results in effector. Oh, I'm going to use that. Good work. What'd you get?
We think that kind of it like overcompensates around the set point, so it's like once it's below, then the RPM goes up until it's high, and like until it's over the set point, and then it goes back down, and it just kind of like wavers around the midpoint.
Okay, now you got kind of the same thing. They got kind of the same thing. I'm going to have to talk about this.
Yeah, that's kind of something that's like more along the lines of what I was trying to think.
So you beyond 2.9? You're right there. It's a reference. What the heck does that mean? It's a reference. I got to go look up something in the reference. I picked on you.
like the body temperature.
Yeah.
Because like it's not one specific number. It's like a range. Yeah. So like plus or minus.
37.
You got it.
37 minus.
The thing that really trips me up is it went from uphill to down to flat and changed. And it went from flat to uphill 2 to 3 and it changed. Even though the change in speed was wildly different. It went like 3+ miles an hour in the first one from 1 uphill. I don't think it's changing in RPM of anything. Yeah.
right, look up here. I'm interested in, what was it, 2.9? 2.9. What does the previous answers tell you about the nature of set points? This is an important term. This is a very important term in physiology. Set point. Set point. What's your human body temperature? What's this in Fahrenheit? I got a friend who writes books, and he has in his book 98.4. Is that a big deal?
No. Yes.
Why isn't it a big deal?
It is.
Why is it a big deal?
It's a lot.
If you have 98.4, are you concerned? No. If you have 98.9, are you concerned?
No.
If you have blood pH of 8.4, are you concerned?
No, because I'm dead.
You're dead. Okay? So in data stuff, in physiology and in a lot of areas, you've got versus broad range, narrow range. And you can almost say that's kind of a sloppy set point. That's a really tight set point. Point is not a good word because you do this. You vary. And sometimes when you're way out of it, you got to engage an effector, like an engine, like sweat glands. What are the effectors for blood pH, by the way? What are the effectors for blood pH? That's a review question. What happens when you hold your breath? What happens to your blood pH? Go up or down? Oh, all of a sudden I'm engaging other activities and my brain hurts. Body temperature. What are your effectors? Muscle, shiver, sweat glands, body posture. All right, this word point, I'm going to get to it so you can get back to work. That word point is not necessarily a good word. A better word, you had it over there. Yell it out because you were spot on right. Yell it. Range. It's a range. It's not a point. Body temperature, bigger range. Blood pH, really tight range. Okay? So some ranges are broad, some ranges are tiny, tight, but set point, not really a good term. Should be a set range, but we use set point, because it's easier to say. I don't know. What was the range for pH? You should know this for the test. What's the range? 7.35, 7.45. That's a pretty good, lesson there. It's a range. Here, it's even bigger. Go back to work. Go back to work.
So it's a very tight range.
Would you use that word? Tight, narrow? What's better, tight or narrow?
Narrow.
I like narrow. Broad versus narrow.
Broad versus narrow, yeah.
Yeah.
You have a wide or broad range.
For temperature,
Yeah.
it's narrow for pH.
Narrow.
No, is it like completely discontinuous like that, or is it more like linear? So let's say for in your body, your blood pH. Well, also say your body temperature. Let's say ideally you want it at 98.6, right? I don't know, right?
It's in that range somewhere.
Yeah, I know in that range somewhere. Let's say.
So say you want it in here somewhere, with the middle of it being about 98.6.
You start to slowly get that response.
Yeah, it's not on-off. It's not binary.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
See, there's going to be problems with almost every example you have. It's like RPMs of an engine. You have a continuously variable transmissions, right?
They do make those, though.
They do. My wife drives a car with a continuously variable transmission,
I was thinking,
which is pretty dang cool. But no, and then you don't have that sudden shift in RPM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking that because I actually drive. Well, I used to drive it.
You ever taken one apart?
What?
Are you taking a clutch apart or a transmission apart?
Not a clutch or transmission. I know they work though, but.
I don't know how they work. I want to figure it out.
Well, clutch you just have friction plates, so it's just like you have different gear.
Yeah, the key word there is just. I've never taken them apart. I don't know what a friction plate is. But they go back to...
I sold them before. We used to work in a power sports company.
Okay.
So for us,
You saw them, because they wear out, right?
Yeah, just imagine two pieces of sand, but you have a steel plate and this one that's break almost. And you
Okay.
Yeah, there.
Go back to work.
The
Go back to work.
Professor, I got a question.
Yeah.
What raises your body temperature? Like muscles? Is that it?
So your brain is going to send nerve signals to your muscles to shiver. Another thing you do is you change posture. Okay?
What is that? Does that
You conserve energy then.
organ is that?
What brain? You're consciously thinking. Another one, which is way underrated, which is your brain tells you to put on a jacket, right? So that's actually a behavioral thing.
Is brain an answer as an effector organ for both increasing and decreasing?
Yeah, I would take it. You could easily make an argument for those.
So if you have a fever, how does your body increase your internal temperature?
How does it increase? You ever had the shivers? So if you've got the flu and your body temperature is here, but now all of a sudden it moves the set point up, how do you rapidly increase? And it's just like, I can't get warm. Crawl underneath the covers with all sorts of things, and you're just still shaking. You're raising your body temperature. And those effectors are working hard. But then what happens when the fever breaks? Oh, sweat like the dickens.
What about how dogs pant when
Yep.
they're really hot? Do we do anything like that about that?
So dogs, that's a great question. What's the effector organ of a dog cooling its body temperature? It can't sweat. Do dogs sweat? This is it. That's their regulation device.
That's why it's so wet all the time?
The tongue?
It's so slow.
Depends on the dog, too. But, to warm up, they can lie down and curl up in a ball. It's like huskies are good to 40 below. And they if you notice a husky, sleeping outside in really cold weather, it sleeps in a circle, and then the tail is right over the nose. The nose is the only exposed thing that gets cold, and the tail just covers it.
What about using does it have anything to do with keeping your hands warm and your head warm?
Oh, this is a good one, because you start going into what's more important, your fingers or your brain. Yeah, and you actually have mechanisms to conserve the brain and the internal organs, but at the sacrifice of the fingers and the toes. It's like they get super cold, but you're actually using energy to keep this part of your body warm. And it's just that's expendable. And then they're really cold. But yeah, some organs are more important than others when it comes to temperature. Keep going.
Do you have a list of all the page numbers for the activity?
No, that's why I did that thing on the front. Is this what test? Yeah, no, and because I knew this question would come up. But if we have time, I think I'm gonna, have each table come up with a list of the activities that we've done. It's just to make sure we've got a common list, and some are more important than others. It's levels of organization, medical terminology. Those are really important. Inside, outside. And then that train one, or is it subway stations from Europe? No, there's some are, I hit hard. That's where you get the insulin. Yep.
Yeah, I feel like that's say brain for everything.
Should be getting close to Model 3 about now. Getting close to Model 3. So it's like if you're in church, every question the answer is God, right? It's God. Here it's brain.
Yeah, we think the control center is heart for body.
The hypothalamus? I don't know.
The control center is the heart for body temperature?
I mean, we don't really know.
Well, early anatomy physiology thought that the blood's job was to cool the brain. I love that one. What's the job of the blood? To cool the brain. They were wrong.
Yeah.
Body temperature control in the heart? That's wrong. What'd you say? That's better, much better. And you can just say brainstem. Brainstem, hypothalamus. Oh, are you in Model 3?
Yeah.
You're cruising. Good. No, you're fine.
The blood help you keep you warm?
What do you think?
Like if you're feeling cold, wouldn't your heart pump more blood?
That's a good question. I think, or does it pump less to conserve heat?
It would go more towards the skin so that it keeps it warm instead of like.
Oh, this is where you get the hierarchy. You actually have a hierarchy of organs, like your brain, your liver. Those are very important. The skin, not as important. Fingers, not as important. And so you'll actually kind of not send blood to your fingers, okay, in order to conserve heat to keep your brain warm. So your fingers feel cold. Your fingers get cold.
Like all your heat goes up here.
Yeah. And what's super weird about, what's it called? I think there's a term for it. But at the end stages of hypothermia, when somebody's freezing to death, there's a final nervous response that opens up all the blood vessels to the skin, and they feel like they're super hot. And often in like frigid temperatures, emergency medical people find frozen people naked because they've taken off all their clothes because they're so hot. But it's a final, I don't know. It's just like, why does that happen?
What's it called, the hypothalamus? Like, hypo is like under...
Yeah, under the thalamus.
Oh.
It's an anatomical part of the brain. But it has to do with its position. We're going to learn a lot about the hypothalamus and the pituitary in about 6 weeks. Yo. Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Goose flesh, goosebumps. You get them when you're hot or when you're cold? Cold. And so, muscles. There's muscles underneath there that your nervous system is stimulating to burn glucose. When you burn up the glucose, you get energy, water, carbon dioxide, and heat. And somebody at another table, it might have been another hour, the body is a very inefficient engine. It gives off a lot of heat. And you use that heat for temperature control. And so it's kind of an artifact. So when you say, what's the purpose? There's no real purpose. It's just a thing that happens when your muscles are doing that. The goose, or the, what's it called, goose bumps? The goose bumps themselves don't heat you up. It's the burning of the glucose in the muscles. And the muscles contracting and relaxing, that's what creates it. Do they happen everywhere, or is it only in certain parts, like your forearms? I'm trying to think of where they happen.
Like legs, pretty much.
Yeah.
I feel like it happens other
arms and legs?
Maybe.
But it's a muscle event. But you're burning up, energy. You're burning up glucose in order to get heat to warm up the body. So in that case, are you at the effector organ one?
No, we just talked about that earlier.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Would be a viable option.
Is what? As an effector organ? Skin/muscles. That looks far more fun than any game I've played. And you guys done?
Yeah.
All right. I got to see if I have any tough questions for you. Can I see 4.3? Yeah. What's this word? Regulation?
Yeah.
You guys suck at number 4.2. You could do better than that. You did not do a good job on 4.2.
Feedback is just a pretty good one,
Just feedback?
Yeah, you don't need
Well, there's positive feedback.
Just,
good job.
I mean,
and then there's negative feedback. What the heck is that?
But, they're both constructive. They can both be taken in a positive perspective.
All right, here's the deal. 4.2. 4.2. Look at 4.2. Many of you are getting to 4.2. I want your answers on the board. I want your answers on the board to 4.2. And we're going to continue now for about 5 more minutes. And then we'll have a big review of this activity, and we're going to have a review for the test too. But 4.2, I want your answers on the board. You guys got to do better. That's negative feedback. What's the word? Redactive feedback? No, that's politics, isn't it? Redactive. What's that word mean? Huh, don't know it.
Redact.
You said reductive, though, right? Was that the word?
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's reduce. Somebody's a syntax person. Somebody's good with words at your table.
I like regulated.
I don't know. What's a good
Set point feedback? Guys are not very sharp without Linda. Have you been using her, her expertise? You've been relying on the postdoc.
I should not be relying on her.
Has she been good at not telling you answers?
Yeah.
Good.
She's been making us think.
I told her there's only one real rule for a postdoc in this class, and that's don't give any answers. Ask questions.
She gives us hints.
That's perfect. That's what I told her to do. Give hints. Don't give answers. What was the word for opposite, or for your feedback word? I thought you had one for, what's the question, 4.7? Or you're not there yet. Oh, keep working. You guys are behind. Keep going.
Running a fever is a common response to the body from Japan sometimes. It has to be the same point my body is running the fever. Why would it change?
Like the range changes to adjust for the infection, maybe like normal.
It might.
It might go higher, but still.
So why?
First, if you own a Tesla,
My grandpa does.
it's like, No, I was wondering, I see a Tesla, Jack. It's just like, I got to see it. Are you an Elon Musk fan? He got in a little bit of trouble. Said he's going to take the company private. He needs a little money for that. No, he had to pay, what, $20 million? Which is just like us if you get fined $1, right? He got fined the equivalent of $1. All right, back to physiology. What do you got?
Why do nerves sometimes go straight to the
Because you don't want your body to
signaling sometimes really straight? Like nerves go,
Say that again.
Like nerves go straight to muscles.
Yeah?
So they contract, but sometimes they release hormones to like do the work. What is it, like a speed thing? Like
That's pretty good. No, and then there's the length of individual nerve cells. Because, you think of like from your toe to your brain, like you stub your toe and you get a sense. How many nerve cells? It's like 2, 3. That's it, but they're super long. So it's not like cell. And it's not like cell, gland. That's just, if it's really fast, it's nerve all the way. But hormones are another signaling device, and that's longer lasting and more systemic.
so
Okay?
that's why we see it for like insulin and things like that.
Yeah, well, that's once it's in the blood, where is it? Everywhere. Yeah, and hormones go into the blood. Hormones always travel by means of the blood. And then in the nervous system, we're going to learn about things called neurotransmitters, and that's from one nerve to a next, and sometimes from one nerve to like an effector organ, like sweat gland or something.
I don't know. 98.6 isn't that hot.
All right, we're going to start in about 2 minutes, and if you wish, you can start looking at your activity packet and come up with questions for me if you wish. But 2 more minutes, and then we're going to start talking about homeostatic mechanisms.
These people weren't here. So
Oh, I'll take them. Hey, if you've got quizzes that were not picked up, just hand them to me. No one. Thank you. Is that yours?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to take that. Anybody else? Thank you. Quizzes that were not picked up.
Do we need to give back our quiz?
No, this is your quiz.
Oh, okay. Just extras.
It's what people who aren't here. I was going to say, I think your table's all here.
So what did we decide on? Triggered feedback or something?
Triggered feedback?
Reactive feedback?
Oh, did I bring a pen?
Where'd you get tro?
No trough. I just imagine like a ball in a trough, and then you put the ball and it kind of wobbles back to the center.
It goes back and forth.
Well, like you push it up to one side, and then like the higher you push it up on this like wall, the more it wants to go back to the center. And
Oh, like a pendulum. You can swing.
kind of like a pendulum. I was just imagining like a ball in a trough. I don't know. It's really. I was just.
Yeah. Like the speed is going back.
Regulated feedback?
we're creative.
You're going to stick with regulated feedback. What did they come up with? Opposite, inverse. What's that D word? Oh, they have deviated? They have regulated too.
Yeah, good one.
Regulated. Homeostatic feedback, opposite, reverse. Deviation feedback, range control. Huh. That's okay. Regulating. All right, you want to turn to and let's see here. This page. Let's go right here. So there's some things in class that are so important that I just say, that's on the test. That's on the test. Okay? That diagram is on the test. And there's 3 words here that are very important. Sensor, control center, effector. And that word effector is kind of new. You know, that's a word that you usually don't hear in an anatomy and physiology class, but we use it. We use it a lot. An effector organ. But sensor, control center, effector. Now, here's the deal. I'm going to make the standard sine wave. We're going to go through some answers. Does your body's pH do that? Is it like a perfect sine wave? Or do you suppose it's
Perfect.
It's not perfect. Your body is sloppy. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. But we use kind of this simple sine wave to talk about what's going on. And if I write the number 37 on here, without any units, what do you suppose we're talking about?
Body temperature.
Body temperature. And if I write the number 100 on here, what do you suppose we're talking about? And if I write 7.4 on here, what do you suppose we're talking about? All right, so there's some really important numbers around. And, all right, so I'm going to use this point right here and just say X. And I'll give you the number, let's say 70 milligrams per deciliter. And is this glucose or glycogen? Glucose. Okay. And I'm going to use a medical term. Got to use some medical terms in here. Hypoglycemic, or is that hyperglycemic? Which one is it? Hypoglycemic. How does the body respond to hypoglycemia? Glycogen. What does glycogen do? Okay, so your liver can take glycogen molecules and break them down into simple sugars and cause that to go back up. Can you also eat? If you eat something, if you eat or consume some nutrients that might go back up. Yeah. Let's pick on 30. Well, let's see here. So, you regulate this thing. You bring it back up. You get too high, you bring it back. You get too low, you bring it back. And we use the word negative feedback, which has always been problematic because the psychologists have taken that word negative and it sounds like negative reinforcement. Bad dog, bad student, right? So we kind of have to think about negative, and that's why we ask that question, put on the board. What's another word? And my favorites are opposite, reverse. What's another one? Does anybody else have a favorite up there? Opposite, feedback. Something that causes a change in direction. Gets too high, brings it back. Gets too low, brings it back. So that's negative feedback. Does your body ever use positive feedback? There's like 3 instances for positive feedback. This is bonus time now. This is not easy stuff. What's one? Childbirth is one.
Let's see. Abortion.
Another one. Childbirth is absolutely right. Blood clotting is 2. And there's a third.
Is it in your heart you can get?
No. Ovulation. We'll talk. You don't worry about it. But childbirth is a great example. And what happens with childbirth is there's a stimulus. The head of the fetus is pushing on the cervix of the uterus, and it sends a signal to the brain to release a hormone called oxytocin. And then it pushes some more, and then you get more oxytocin, pushes some more, you get more oxytocin. But here's the deal. Positive feedback ends in an event. Positive feedback ends in an event. It either goes, to some event up here or some event down there. But the event in childbirth is childbirth.
Would it be the same for cancer treatment?
No, don't go there. Then the same is true for blood clotting. You end in a clot. It ends in a clot. And then in ovulation, if you know the female reproductive system, there's an event where on day 14 of the cycle there is an egg released from the ovary. And that's an event. But most of the time we work on negative feedback or reverse feedback, where we take some variable and then bring it back. Take some variable, gets too low, bring it back. Gets too high, bring it back. Bring it back, bring it back. And do that a lot. All right, let's do body temperature. What's the third one? Oh, we had childbirth, blood clotting, ovulation. You don't need to know that for the test. This test. The next test, yes. Next test, we're going to hit that. Let's see here. Sensors, effectors. Where does your body pick up body temperature? Where are the thermoreceptors? Do you have them? And then some of these I don't know the location of. I think they're in your brain. I think they're in your brainstem. It's just like they sense the body temperature. And then the effector. What's an effector? I want you to look at each other right now and for 30 seconds talk about what are effectors. You had the engine as an effector in the example. What's an effector? Just, 15 seconds. That's not tough.
Yeah. The way I thought about it, components that could be a variable that you're talking about.
All right, so I'm gonna give it a shot. An effector is something that's engaged that brings a variable back within range. Does that sound about right? An effector is a device or an organ or something that's engaged. to bring a variable back to within range. Notice I didn't say set point. I said back within range because that's pretty important. Physiologists use set point a lot. Set range is probably better because there's safe ranges where it's just like, it doesn't require any effector organ activity. It's safe.
It sets range?
Set range is better. I like, well, you're going to see set point in here too quite a bit. I think it's this last page. Yeah, look at this. Effector variable. And we now know that a word effector variable. In this diagram, did we have regulated variable? Look at that. It goes right here. What's the regulated variable? I like regulated variable. Regulated variable is one that, has a homeostatic mechanism working on it. And here's the effector variable. Oh, did I say that right? I said, regulated variable. I might have goofed that up. But I'm not going to be that picky on the test, okay? I want that one, and that one. But let's go here. Heart rate. Which one does it go with?
Blood pressure.
Blood pressure. I like that. Ventilation. What's ventilate? That's breathing. What was that one? Blood gas. Blood gas levels. Glycogen synthesis.
Glucose concentration.
Glucose concentration. Sweating. Body temperature. Good. That's good. All right, we got another one. And I think I'm going to go to the board. I'm going to go to the board over here. I'm going to erase this. And you want to look over here. And you got to take a few notes. This next bit is pretty important. And we have a slide, which I'm going to show you in a minute. Can I get your pen behind you there? I hope that's a good one. Thank you. Good. Blood pressure. Blood pressure. That's my regulated variable. Do I have sensors for blood pressure? Okay, I have sensors. They're called baroreceptors. Baroreceptors. Okay? And baroreceptors pick up or receive the information. And they're located in blood vessels right around the heart. And these are cool things. They're transducers. They change, one form of energy into another. In this case, it's pressure into a nerve signal. And baroreceptors send their information to the brainstem. Now, looking at your generic, diagram, what's the brainstem? That's the receptors. What's this? It's not an effector. Control center. So this is our control center. Is there the word signals in there? When you see that diagram, is there the word signals? You can turn it back. I forget if we got signals in there. Information flow. So I'm going to write that in here. Information flow. And how does information go from the receptors to the brainstem? Nerves. So information flow is one of two things. In this case, it's nerves. Nerve signals. And the other way you transmit information in the body is hormones. But nerves, hormones, those are the big two. But then the brain center is the control center. Brainstem is the control center. And what's the regulated variable here? Blood pressure. Okay? Baroreceptors, brainstem. And then depending on the information, I'm going to write information flow. I'm going to say heart. I'm going to say heart and heart rate. Okay? So baroreceptors, brainstem, heart. What happens if the baroreceptors detects too little blood pressure? What's the heart going to do? Pump more or pump less? What did I say? Too much or too little? Too little? Too little BP. Then you're going to increase heart rate. HR, heart rate. Does that sound right? What happens if it's too high blood pressure? And in our culture, we generally have too much, right? High blood pressure is an issue. And too high, it's going to reduce heart rate. Does that sound right? Here's a question. Is heart rate a regulated variable? Blood pressure, regulated variable. Do you think heart rate is a regulated variable? It's got to have three things. It would have to have a receptor. It would have to have a control center. It would have to have an effector variable. Is heart rate a regulated variable? It's a tough one. I'm going to come back to that. I might not come back to that today, but we're going to come back to that. I got a prediction question. A major bleed. Major bleed. Hemorrhage. Major hemorrhage. If you have a major hemorrhage where you're just gushing blood, what happens to heart rate using what you have just learned? Okay? I want your tables to work on that for like 1 minute. And what happens to heart rate when you have and this makes sense, doesn't it? You have less blood to pump, so the heart rate should slow down. That makes sense, doesn't it? Well, go to work. See if you can figure out something. See if you can think like a physiologist. Heart rate goes down?
Heart rate goes up because your blood pressure goes down when you have a major bleed.
Goes up or down? Does everybody understand that? How does it go up with less blood to pump? It's less blood. You should think you should pump less because there's less blood. Blood pressure drops, right? What'd your table say? Up. What'd your table say? Up, down, up. All right. Look at me. We got like 3 more things to hit before the class is over. So if you have a major bleed, what's going to happen? We're just going to follow the logic path. It's just like, here's blood pressure. Let's just say it. Because a major bleed causes your blood pressure to drop. Okay, you don't have as much, blood in the system, and then what picks up? What's the thing that receives the information? The baroreceptors are going to start going bzz, bzz, bzz. We need some reverse of this variable. We need to reverse the variable. It's going down. How do you reverse low blood pressure? Well, you send information to the brainstem, and then the brainstem is going to send information to the effector variable, the heart. The effector organ is the heart. And then the heart is going to respond by what? Going nuts by increasing heart rate. Okay, so as a person bleeds out, if they've got a major bleed, their heart rate's going to go up really high in order to compensate for that low blood pressure. That's in there too. This is where things get complicated. But the sympathetic nervous system's in there too, and that's going to cause the release of adrenaline, a bunch of stuff. That's also going to affect the heart. The heart's going to get, a lot of different signals that's all basically saying, speed up! But yeah, that's in there too. Write down this simple sentence, and you're going to explain it. The heart is just an effector organ. Write that down and underline just. And then look at each other and explain it. The heart is just an effector organ. Explain that. Give you like 30 seconds.
Is it true? I was thinking more along the lines of like
What's the answer?
Well, yeah, it doesn't detect anything. It just receives the signal from the control center.
Yeah. Brainstem.
Brainstem, and then react to that.
So the heart is just an effector variable.
It was just
The heart rate is what we call an effector variable.
Yeah.
That's a variable that comes from an effector organ. What's actually being regulated is blood pressure.
Blood pressure.
Blood pressure
would go down if your heart rate goes up.
Always?
Not always.
Which is a quick question. To give us the answer.
Blood?
I'm going to listen.
When you're losing blood?
Yes.
Okay.
But that's not a normal event. That's not normal. Yeah.
You mean to give us the answer here?
Oh, which one is it?
Yeah.
What is it?
The
37 plus 1.0, you gave us the answer.
Description of...
1.0? Yeah.
Something like that.
37.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little severe. All right, listen. If you're understanding the following couple sentences, you're doing pretty well. The heart is an effector organ that responds to changes in signals from the brainstem, which is a control center. And the control center receives information from receptors, like barrel receptors. And if blood pressure drops, you're going to have it sensed by the barrel receptors, the information sent to the brainstem, and then the brainstem is going to send information to the effector organ, the heart, to pump more. Okay? We're oversimplifying it, but the heart is an effector organ for blood pressure. It can also be involved in blood pH and other things. Heart rate is not homeostatically controlled because there's no receptors in your body for heart rate. Nowhere in your body is there something that detects 72 beats a minute. Is there any place in your body that detects blood sugar? Is there any place in your body that detects blood pressure, body temperature? And what's really weird is there's not that many variables that are controlled by homeostatic mechanisms. There's not many. And we're able to live on just, a handful. I think it's like 20, 30, 40 that are known. Right now, start, just thinking of review for the test. Look through your activity packet, and I'm going to be walking around to the tables, and you can say, is this one on there? Is this one on there? Because I've had the question, which activities are on the test? And I was hoping you'd mark them down. I've got a lot of them on Canvas, but there might be one that I forgot, because we did it in class and I didn't put it on Canvas. Like 440, you suppose that's on there? Yeah. Okay? But, give you like 2 minutes just to look at your activities, and I'm going to walk around.
Are there different types of temperature sensors in your body?
Different locations.
Well, no,
that's what was goofed me up. Is this like, where are those receptors? Thermoreceptors are what it's called. It's a great Google question.
Well, yeah, but no, because your hands and stuff, when you touch something, it's all relative.
Yeah, that's a nerve. You can put your hand in ice water, and that goes to your conscious brain. And there's also going to be signals, I imagine, to your brainstem, too, for changing of body temperature.
Well, yeah, no, but that's relative to the temperature of your hand. That's
right.
What the sensors. So how do you regulate, an absolute temperature when your sensors are only
it's
relative?
Blood. I think it's absolute. Hold it. Give me. And ask the question. I might not be able to get to it because I got to walk around.
So, you have an absolute body temperature that you're trying to regulate.
It's a range. It's not. When you say absolute, I'm thinking point.
Yeah, but not relative.
I got to walk around. And I'll get back. You guys good? Yeah. Good?
I wouldn't care if I lived here.
I will have easy questions on that one. That was a tough activity. And I will have some questions, but it's not going to be, I'm not going to hit you over the head with really tough ones. For blood? So type B is a phenotype. Type BB or BO is genotype. There's going to be 2 pieces of information in genotype. Half of it from mom, half of it from dad. All right, last bit of information. I've posted clues up on Canvas on Wednesday. The only thing we do is the test. If you study, you should be able to do pretty well. You've been keeping up and doing okay. The test is a little tougher than the quizzes. It's going to push you a little bit, but it's not like the medical school exam. So study and you will do well. I will see you on Wednesday. I'm shutting off the robot.